Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Catan: Dawn of Humankind. Dawn of Humankind is another Catan variant, a 3 to 4 player game giving you the core rules of Catan, which we'll go into in case you don't know those, but it's a Catan variant in which you are going to be exploring across this world over here, starting off with your villages in this little small central region, and then slowly moving across the board, trying to gather as many points as possible while you go through the typical Catan system of rolling dice every single round, everyone gathering resources based on where they have their locations, and then trying to use those resources to drive your points faster and better than the other players. Catan: Dawn of Humankind, and we'll dive into this more focused on just what this game does as opposed to comparing it to Catan so you know what's going on. But basically, every single round you're going to go ahead and roll the dice. You're going to go ahead and look to see where you have your huts and then gain resources based on those dice. So for example, over here, white and red are both going to get the skin over here because they're on that resource. They're going to get the bear skin or whatnot. Over here, do we have any other 10s? We do not have any other 10s. And you're going to go ahead and be able to use those resources for a bunch of actions that are all printed on your player aids over here. You have everything listed over here with the development costs of different things, from creating explorers that will slowly wander around the board, from converting explorers into camps. Once you get to certain spots on the board, you'll have the opportunity to go ahead and turn an explorer into a camp, taking the token, which will be worth a point. You're trying to get to 10 points faster than the other players, and so that will be a primary way you get points by turning your explorers into camps, spending the requisite resources over here. You also have the option to spend resources to go ahead and move explorers 1 to 3 spaces, although you can upgrade that on the technology tracks over here. There's 4 different technology tracks. We'll explain what they all do as we go through this, but as you upgrade up the track, you'll be able to move your explorer as much as 7 spaces, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, grabbing spots and trying to move around to eventually settle in other areas. Then you have the progress track costs. These are going to be the technology tracks, and it gives you the cost to go to level 1, to level 2, level 3, and level 4 as you slowly move up those tracks. Now what the tracks do in the game is there's 4 tracks and they do different things. The first track we already mentioned. It's going to increase how far your explorers move, giving you more flexibility as they try to spread around the board, getting to ideal locations and gathering the various tokens you need to get points, as well as these tokens that will give you extra points for having a wide distribution of different areas on the board. The second track is going to allow you to move the robbers in this game. There's going to be 2 robbers, these ones over here, that when you roll the 7, you're going to move these to different spots and they'll block production and steal from those players, but you have the opportunity to move the robbers by moving up one of the technology tracks. Will always let you move the robber somewhere else. The last 2 tracks are going to be access points. Across the course of the game, you have 2 different tracks that are going to correspond to these numbers over here that are different access points that are by these bonus tokens across the board. These are tokens that if you have the requisite level in those 2 tech tracks, 1 and 3 over here, 2 and 3 over here, we have a 4 and 4 over here. If you have the requisite levels, you have the opportunity to move your explorer into those zones, gathering the tokens, seeing what's on the other side of it, and taking that benefit. In this case, you're going to get the point for that one. Every one of the colors has a single one that's a point. They also have ones that will slowly deplete this region, removing tokens from the board, making it harder for some players to generate resources back in their starting region. And those are the 4 tech tracks on the board. You're moving around, trying to go through this process, every turn rolling dice, every turn everyone takes resources, regardless of whose turn it is, but you can only spend resources on your turn, trading resources with other players, trading resources with the bank, and using those resources to get points, which points will come from having your actual villages in the game. Whenever you go ahead and move to different regions, you're going to go ahead and grab these tokens, and these will be worth points to you. Earning these tokens over here, which again, every color has 1 opportunity to get a point over here. Those are going to be worth points as well. You also have points for getting to the end of a tech track. Whenever you get to the end of a tech track, the first person there gets a point from that. And then you'll have points for having the most of a few different things. You'll have points for having 1 of each different type of thing. So when you have 1 of each different type of the regions, these, and these, you're going to get a point for that. You'll also have the points for having the most of these over here, as well the most regions, as well as points for having the most of these tokens. You can see that matching shape. Whoever has the most tokens will get points there. You're trying to go through this process, trying to get the most points wherever you can, trying to build out your villagers, trying to gather as many points from those, eventually being the player to get to 10 points as you slowly explore the world, gather more resources, mindful of the slow depletion of your original starting area, until a player gets to 10 points in Catan: Dawn of Humankind. And that's the game. Manage your tech tracks, manage your movement, spend your resources accordingly, roll as luckily as you can. That's a big part of the strategy of the game, and that is Catan: Dawn of Humankind. A quick note on the differences from Catan over here, for those who do want that difference or whatnot. Catan generally has the same roll, dice, gather resources engine, but this one has a degree of exploration mixed in. Exploration with various tokens. Catan is more focused on the central island and trying to build roads and connections, having longest road, having development cards. This has tech tracks instead, and a larger degree of exploration in the game, although at the cost, these are not randomized at all. The starting region does have a degree of randomized or preferred starting setup, but all the other tokens on the board are not randomized and will be fixed in, with having everything there fixed in as far as the board state goes. Which brings us to the review, starting off with Ease of play. If you're walking into this experience knowing Catan, this is a very easy game to learn. I know Catan, and so it makes it hard for me to say how hard is this game to learn if you don't know Catan. I don't know. Catan in general is a fairly easy game. I know Catan and the differences here are very, very small, so very easy to learn, very easy to teach, especially teaching to players who know Catan. Very easy game to get up and running as far as the gameplay. A game runs around 90 minutes, a little long, not too long, but the degree of exploration, gathering your points and all that, runs around 90 minutes generally. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with the fact that this is Catan. If you like the engine of Catan, this has 70% of the same DNA, which means if you like that core engine of rolling dice, you're likely going to like this as well. Whether you like it more or less than Catan is a different conversation, but if you like Catan, this has enough of the core DNA that this is a game that has, well, those aspects. You'll enjoy the core dice rolling, gathering resources, building up your tableau, building up your huts on the board so you get more and more every single time the dice are rolled. That first turn where you're hoping for a resource here and there versus 12 turns into the game when you're gathering 3 resources on a single roll, it is a very rewarding experience to just have those dice roll, gather stuff, gather more stuff, spend stuff, build more and more, rinse and repeat until a player wins the game. Additionally, this game has that exploratory aspect. There is an additional degree of choice and strategy around how you move your explorers around the board, what you try to go for, which technology tracks you try to level up, whether you try to get 2 or 3 extra points from just leveling up your tech tracks, or whether you try to explore the board getting those prime positions, or whether you try to go for the exploratory areas of the board trying to get those extra tokens. There's a lot of opportunities for how you integrate the exploratory aspect of this game into the Catan experience and give you a lot more choice and branching aspects. Additionally, the slow decline of your original area, I like that aspect. As players explore these tokens, each of them will slowly pull away tokens from this original area, forcing you to branch out. You cannot build an engine that relies on this area because this area will slowly be depleted as the game goes on, and so you need to be mindful of that as you go. Combining that with the tech tracks, giving you 4 different options as far as different ways you can try to progress how better you are or what you can do in the game, gives you a lot of other things to consider in the Catan experience. As far as things I don't like in the game, first of all, I'm going to start with the tech tracks, which I just said I liked, because I like the concept of the tech tracks. I wish the tech tracks here were more different. Now, right now we have 4 tech tracks, but one of them feels like a tech track and the other 3 feel like present in the game. The idea of improving your movement, the idea of improving your explorer's movement, I love that. That's a tech track, gives you a degree of investment. Where do you choose to invest in different areas? I like it a lot. But the other tech tracks are moving the robbers, which is nice, it's important, it just doesn't feel like a fun, interesting track. And then the other 2 tracks are gateway points, where you have to have certain levels to be able to get to certain tokens, and it's kind of worth either going for them or not, but if you're going to go for them to some larger degree so you can get those extra points. But again, it doesn't feel interesting so much as a thing that's in the way. I wish the game had 4 tech tracks that were all different, that all improve things in different ways, rather than the way it is right now, where it feels like one's actually technology and the other 3 are just aspects of the game that have to be accounted for. Secondly, the board is too stagnant for the game to be interesting game after game after game. One of the pros of Catan in general is the fact that every single game is a completely different experience. The way things are set up forces you to examine the puzzle and the ratios and which pathway you're going to pursue, which thing has the slightly better optimal ratios for you. That's part of the fun and strategy and challenge of Catan, and that's less present in a game where most of the board is very, very stagnant. The fact that every single tile is exactly listed, exactly positioned, there's no variability to the way things are connected to one another, means that as you go through the game, the good spots are predefined. As you play your 3rd or 4th game, you know what you want to go to, where you want to go, and there's no rethinking your strategy based on what the game threw at you. It's the same board, and I don't love that in a Catan experience. To me, the variability of Catan is one of the things that keeps it interesting, and this game takes it away from you in a way that makes it, well, less interesting. As far as I can see others not liking, first of all, this is still Catan. If you don't like the Catan dice rolls and random resources and who gets a better distribution of die rolls, that's absolutely present here. Like I said, this is 70% Catan, which means if you don't like Catan, there's a decent chance you will not like this either. And secondly is the randomness of the rewards you get as well. The fact that as you go through the game, you can get a point, depending on which reward you get, versus you can get something that is just declining resource over here. The variability in the rewards that you get from those exploratory tiles means you can just get lucky and random and get extra points, 2 or 3 or even 4 extra points in the game just through the luck of what you draw versus another. So that's an extra degree of randomness thrown in, and a game that goes to 10 points, a few extra points, 2 extra luck-based points doesn't feel particularly rewarding. As far as final thoughts on Catan: Dawn of Humankind, overall, if you like Catan, I think you'll like this game. That I don't think is the question. What I do think is the question that's very relevant, is if you do like Catan, are you more likely to like this one more or less than Catan? And I don't know for you. I know that for me, I prefer original Catan, although biased with the fact that I like the expansions for Catan as well. So for me, Catan with either Seafarers or Catan with Cities and Knights is a great experience. Vanilla Catan is good, but I think even Vanilla Catan, I slightly prefer to Dawn of Humankind. Dawn of Humankind does introduce a few elements that are solid additions in theory, but the static board really holds me back from loving the experience. For me, this is a 3 out of 5. I like it, it maintains the DNA of Catan, it's an enjoyable experience, but I think ultimately I would pick Catan over this. It's not meant to be a full-on comparison review as opposed to a straight-up review, but given the prominence in the board game space, it's hard to talk about Catan Dawn of Humankind without referencing Catan at all. So yeah, if you like Catan and you like collecting all the Catan things, I think this is solid. I think it's worth checking out. But for me, I think I would go, while I do enjoy Catan Dawn of Humankind, I think I would recommend Catan over it. Speaking of which, let's go to recommendations. Recommendations. If you're looking for a game that is like Catan Dawn of Humankind, but a game that I think is smoother and gives you more variability, I recommend Catan. Ideally, like I said already, with the Cities and Knights expansions or the Seafarers expansions, or better yet, adding both of those together. And then secondly, if you want something that thematically gives you the feel of what this game is going for while being a very different but also a gateway game that I highly recommend, Stone Age is an excellent game that takes place in the same rough time period. Although rough is rough. Rough could be off by several million years, I don't really know. But Stone Age is another game with a degree of worker placement and rolling a ton of dice that is very engaging in a very, very, very different way. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.